This is IBM Museum. After the previous video that I featured the prototype boards from IBM and had this JDR micro devices prototype board with even a breadboard area on it. And breadboard areas just means the area that you can stick the components like the chips. And I've got the resistor and an LED light in there, as well as a few chips in this one. But I went online after that just to see if JDR Micro Devices was still in operation. And yes, they still have a web presence. I don't think they're doing the mailers of the Kellogg's quite as much. They're probably falling back to using the online catalog instead of that very expensive way of sending out the catalogs that I was used to back in the 90s, early 2000s for their products, advertising and picking out what I would order. I don't know if I've ordered this board directly from them, but there's a good likelihood. I did search for this adapter, and they only have about 2 pages of products in the prototype section, and the only thing close to it was an extender board for the ISA bus, and that was priced at I think like $46, and didn't even have an image of it. But that would just be also useful in the prototyping or testing of adapters where you had an adapter that all it does is lengthen the connections that you stuck into the system, and so you could have the board more fully outside the system to do things like testing or even working with the board a little bit, not having to go through and working inside the computer like this adapter would require. And those things are handy. I haven't decided. I've looked for the instances that that having an 8-bit or 16-bit of this ISA bus would be handy for testing some stuff that I have, like the L40SX communications cartridge that I think I've featured on this channel. Just a little box with an 8-bit ISA for a little 8-bit ISA adapter of particular types. But I do have these adapters, these extensions as it is, and as can be read on the box, IBM microcomputer accessories. This is Vero Electronics, and I have no idea if these folks are also still in operation or not. And it has for this one, quantity 1, even has a code number 4253644E as in Edward, and it's an IBM PS2 extension accessory. Looks like the part number is B1CC-V as in Victor, E as in Edward, RO, just like the name of the company. And it's interesting for me, the production date here at the bottom of this label being that week 33 of 1988, being even earlier than the prototype adapters for the PC and the XT that I had of those date codes. Those were in the early 90s, very early 90s. And just a little bit more of a close-up. I just want to make sure that I'm able to how much lag there is and things. I don't know if this check mark is a quality control mark or something, maybe. There's a good view of the label and the branding of the box. And there's no other real label otherwise for the adapter. Let's go through, bring up that. And of course, since I searching on these sorts of things are not real easy to find. It's not real good search terms to have for finding any of these. And this is actually disassembled until just a few months ago when I put it together. And it's a little bit more elaborate that it has the handles on it, and it's got a little bit more of the branding. And all it does is plug into that system, that PS2 Microchannel, and this is 16-bit with the AVE extension on the back. This is the what they consider the 8-bit section of the adapter, 16-bit area, and then the AVE extension at the back, and that's the auxiliary video extension, and that's for a video adapter, more of the communication with the system, or the system using that video adapter as an auxiliary, not the base video. And that would be like the 8514/A adapter that used the planar video for the VGA attributes, and also had a monitor connection itself on board. And then it marks out some of the signals. Let me just show the back side on the webcam. And a lot of that shielding, but still with the copper reclamation, or not just doing the entire shield on the back, or unbroken thin layer of that trace material. And all it does is just bring up that connection up to where you would plug in the adapter. And so let's see what close-ups we could have. This is still the back side of the adapter. Just moving all those traces up to that top connection. And this bracket's a little bit loose, but when it's on there, it's attached. And going through and marking out the pins. And that the marking out the AV and the BV, that's just the sides, A and B sides, and the V most likely meaning that video section at the tail end of that. See, they have just the A and B marked out for the 16-bit and 8-bit sections of the adapter. So just putting it into a little bit better position so you can work on the prototype adapter, or go through and even troubleshoot an adapter having a little bit extended out from the system. This off to the side. And here's another group that I have. And this, I think I've heard this name otherwise, a vector board, although it doesn't have the A in that. I don't know if that's and that's a US company, Vector Electronics Company, Sylmar, California. And that having a markings on it that I can bring up even better on the camcorder. So there's what that is. and 7.5-inch extension, IBM PS2. Even some of that kind of like a dot filling, or the early kind of inkjet sort of markings that they used in marking cable and stuff like that. But there's all your part number and everything for that. And inside the box, and I've done a copy of one of the pages. This would be very similar. This looks like a little bit longer, or about the same height as the other adapter, but it goes through. It's the same. This is the 16-bit with that AVE extension on the bottom. So just the same as that earlier extender board that we looked at, different brand. There's where your adapter goes in. And this one actually marks the signals that are on the microchannel bus, shows what positions they are, what pin positions they are. And has capacitors on there for buffering a little bit of the power. And there's your video extension, marking what signals are there. What it can probably do for this, I guess, a good video to show, as long as I'm going into the bus extenders, maybe at the end of this, I'll show that. I can do the maybe like the pinouts for the browser capture side of things. I don't want all that long a video, but, and then let's go back to the webcam for, and this is the 32-bit with the matched memory extension. And a little bit closer view. I know on the other one I didn't show the back side of it, but it also has the, there's a close-up of your markings. Even the keyway positions are reserved. All these signals and voltages marked out. And on the back side, being those pin positions. And this one I've noticed prior to recording. Let me get stable enough here. Okay. I don't know if it's as visible on this. Probably it's the other end. We see those pins in the off to the edges, but there is pins that are out of position, even in the center of the slot, and hanging free out. So I don't know when that occurred. I certainly haven't used these in probably a number of years. But I'll have to decide how to, I mean, that pin there is just right out in the middle of things. A few others are close to the edge, or even retracted within those positions that they're not probably not as a good contact to an adapter if you had it in there. And the 16-bit version doesn't have any of the same damage. It's determine my focal length there, but it's a lot cleaner. Again, there's the back side of it, marking out the signals. And I have a couple printouts of the sheet that was with it. I went through and I've even copied. This one's a little torn, but I'd made a copy of it prior to it being torn up. But that's just from the manufacturer. And there they talk about a prototyping board with onboard VLSI microchannel interface components. I don't know if those numbers would still be active. Probably a product that they do not have anymore. And there's a good layout of your microchannel bus, the pin designations. And I'll show where that is online in just a moment here. That's the Mul 60 one I showed. You know, it's interesting they mark out the 16-bit systems, and these are the initial IBM 16-bit systems, the Mul 50, Mul 60. Doesn't talk about the 50Z. And then the extender board for the Model 80, which is interesting enough, it doesn't talk about the Mul 70. Using the extender board, and there's the related products once again. And then the signals of that full 32-bit microchannel in the matched memory extension. So now's probably a good time to go through. Let me see if I can pull up that page, and that'll be an excellent outro of this video. And I'll put a link to in the video description of this. This, of course, is from the Ardent tool, and it's down towards the bottom of the page. It discusses some of the areas of the IBM systems. Certainly, I can go using that back feature to go back and kind of show the location at the end of this. But this is the microchannel slots. And just goes through an introduction. The slot types, gives nice, excellent images of those by Major Tom of their layout. Which side is towards the back of the system. All the different definitions of all the different types. That and then links even for getting into the auxiliary video extension or those MME, the matched memory extension areas. And also talking about the base video extension. The base video is a video, and that's often at times when this PS2 had no base video on the planer. There are models that have that, being like the Mul 77 Bermuda planers or 76 Bermuda planers had a video adapter in there. And so on their riser, they had one of the slots had the base video extension or the BVE. And that hangs much more towards the back. And that would be like mainly in your XGA and XGA2 for your base video. Even some models that had, the base video, they still had those adapters in place and not necessarily used or in a base video extension slot either. But I'll include the link for that, of where that is. And Major Tom has some nice little step backs or backtracks that go through to where that's located. There are other groups of other pages with that. We just step back one level, and we are clicking on the very first link at the top of that, Microchannel architecture, and then back to the home selection. And this is down towards the bottom of the page, and where it talks about the parts and technologies, and then talking about the technical background and microchannel architecture that are listed there. Microchannel architecture is what we clicked on before to go directly or to that page. So there's a little bit of that layout. But another helpful little adapters without much electronics on them, but helpful in that prototyping and troubleshooting area to microchannel in this instance, rather than the PC or PCAT bus like we showed those prototype adapters, that what they're for. So a bit more of that unusual content. And if you've enjoyed this video, go ahead and click on that like button, please. And please subscribe to my channel if you have not done so already. But that is all I have for now. This is IBM Museum. Thank you.